Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City Council Forum. This is the first of our two forums tonight. They will both be on this stream. The election for the City of Las Vegas for the City Councilor positions is on next Tuesday, March 1st, and we thought this would be a good opportunity to let our candidates let you know their thoughts on different topics going on in the community and to let them have their say before we get started here. So let me introduce our Ward 1 candidates tonight. We have two of the three candidates. We have first, we will introduce Francisco Apodaca. Thank you for joining us tonight, sir.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. And we will also have tonight Doris Gallegos. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here.
Absolutely. So I've gone over the way this forum will work with our candidates a little bit, but to let the people at home know what's going to happen tonight, they will be answering questions on a variety of different topics. They will also have an opening and closing statement. And by the end of the night, hopefully we have addressed a lot of the issues that people in the community care about. So the candidates will start out with a 3-minute opening statement, and then they will have 2 minutes to answer each question throughout the rest of the evening. We anticipate this going about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, somewhere around there, and we can just hop right into it. So I'm going to have Francisco Apodaca give his opening statement first, and then we'll basically alternate back and forth from there, from then on, with who answers each question first, who gives, their statements first, and it will be very even throughout the rest of the evening. So without further ado, we will allow Francisco Apodaca to give his opening statement. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Phil. Again, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to have our thoughts and our ideas come before the voters and the electorate and those people that are watching. I thank you for doing that. I think it's important that we have some type of a venue other than one-on-one of the radio or a radio ad or a typical campaign fair, signs, whatever. But I think it's important that we discuss the issues that are at hand, that our community is facing. One thing I'd like to say is I'd like to kind of start out with a disclaimer or an apology, if you would, to the constituents of Ward 1. I haven't been out door to door very much. Because of the issues that we're facing around the current health issues and health orders and COVID, I started by going out to a few places. I noticed that people were very reluctant at their doorways. And I don't blame them. I just recently had COVID. I understand that some people are very scared, for lack of a better term, to open up their door to someone that's wearing a mask that you don't know who they are. And so I want to say, I'm sorry, I didn't get to knock on a lot of doors. I walked around, I've used the radio, I've used newspaper ads, I've used political signs and the usual campaign fair to get my word out. But I thank you for allowing me to do this. And I'm sorry that I didn't get to talk to more people, but it's the nature and it's the time that we're living in. First of all, I'd like to say that, I decided to run for city council. I served on a couple of different boards for the city. I served on the comprehensive planning board that came up and drew up and presented a comprehensive plan for the city. And a couple of things there that struck me as kind of not odd, but kind of usual fare for a comprehensive plan. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I thought there was no really innovative thought that went in there. So I think that we need to think out of the box if we're going to continue to grow or grow at all. We've seen a decrease in our population. We've seen a decrease in businesses. And most of all, we've seen an exodus of our children. I tell people all the time in the meetings that I attend, our greatest export from Las Vegas are our kids. We need to do something to keep our best and brightest here. We need to have an innovative business strategy. We need to support small businesses and have them attract other businesses that would keep and potentially create some type of a career path for our children. I'm
Hey,
the director of.
Francisco, that is 3 minutes.
Whoa, that was quick.
All right, we're gonna
Go
go
on.
to we're gonna go to Doris now for her opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to be here. I truly appreciate that. And I want to give kudos to the West Las Vegas wrestling team. They took state, and I want to give kudos to both East and West schools. They're trying their hardest and they're doing good. Yes, good evening, my friends. My name is Doris Gallegos, and I'm running for City Council of Ward 1. I'm running for City Council for many reasons, but primarily I want to give back to the city and the community that has given so much to me and my family. I want Ward 1 to have the equal opportunity to thrive. I care deeply about our community, the direction it's going, and where we will be in the future. I want to protect the integrity of Ward 1. As a constituent myself, I am no different than anyone else when it comes to the concerns and needs of our ward. As your city councilor, I'll work to repair and upgrade roads and infrastructure, invest in small and local businesses, support public safety and animal control, and provide adequate resources to help our youth and elderly, and much more. My desire to serve Ward 1 stems from my family values and work ethics my parents taught me and my family, and my siblings, and those traits I passed down to my 3 daughters and my grandsons. I'm the proud daughter of my late mother, Rosie Baca Gallegos, and my father, Joe Kale Gallegos, who is a Korean War Navy veteran. I grew up on Delgado Street in West Las Vegas. I graduated from West Las Vegas High School and attended New Mexico Highlands University. I have 39 years of work experience in the public sector. I retired from the city after 25 years working in budget and finance. For the last 14 years, I've worked for New Mexico Highlands University in the ITS department. I'm currently serving on the NMHU President Council for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, as well as I'm the NMHU VP for Staff Senate. I'm on the West Las Vegas Audit Committee, the New Mexico Highlands University Budget and Finance Committee. I'm also a Democratic State Central member. I'd like to say after 39 years of service, this shows continuity and loyalty to my employers. And that's why I want to give back and put my knowledge and background to work as your next city councilor for Ward 1. I'll listen and work and get things done for Ward 1 and our great Meadow City. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, so that brings us to the first question of the night, and Doris, you will get to go first on this one. We're going to go back and forth on this. So the first question of the night is, have you ever served as an elected or appointed official in the past? If so, in which positions did you serve and the timeframes of those?
As elected official, no, this is my first time.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
All right, very quick and to the point. I like that. All right, Francisco, same question to you. Have you ever served as an elected or appointed official in the past? If so, in which positions did you serve and the timeframes?
I've never been served as an elected official, although I've been appointed to several boards here in the city, in the county, and the state. I guess I can start out with San Miguel County. I was the chairman of the Purge Board, the County Clerk's Purge Board, and that was quite some time ago in the 90s. I served as vice chair of the city's Planning and Zoning Board. That was again in 2000. I served as on the city's Comprehensive Planning Committee. I've served as the recently this summer, I served as the chairman of the Charter Commission to look and review the charter. I've served on several state boards. I was on the Environmental Improvement Board. I served as a liaison for tribal and community affairs for the Department of Environment. I served the city of Albuquerque on their zoning and review board. So I've served on several boards and throughout my career, and all in local government or state government positions.
Perfect. All right.
I'm sorry, Phil.
Oh, okay.
I thought you meant as an elected official, but like I said, I was on the diversity and equity and inclusion, the committees that I'm on, and
Yes.
also I was elected to staff senate.
Okay.
So sorry about that. I misunderstood.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Not a problem at all. All right, let's go back to Francisco for the next question. What specific attributes do you possess that you feel makes you uniquely qualified to serve on the city council?
Well, my experiences with local governments, state governments, I was county manager of San Miguel County for 8 years. I was county manager in Valencia County for 4 years. Having taken on major capital projects, I was the head, and under my term as county manager here in San Miguel County, I built the San Miguel County Jail when we didn't have one, which is a very tough issue. We built 7 volunteer fire departments. I understand the workings of local government as far as revenue sources and funding sources. I've served in various city boards, as you've heard. I've got a degree, a master's degree in political government and governmental organization. I was a lobbyist for tribal and environmental groups, the city of Las Vegas at one time, Luna Community College, the county of San Miguel, where I understand the lobbying process. I understand the legislative process where many people don't. I was intimately involved in, the appropriations process, the legislative process, and have several bills that I passed. One of them was a taxation bill, they're very hard to pass. I'm proud to say that it really affected local farmers and ranchers and would have negatively affected them. And we passed legislation, the legislature, that saved farmers and ranchers. I put together coalitions of disparate groups that never talked to each other: farmers, ranchers, environmentalists, tribes, acequias, and it really helped to build and give me an understanding of how government works and how local government in particular works.
Perfect. All right. And Doris, same question. What specific attributes do you possess that you feel makes you uniquely qualified to serve on the city council?
First and foremost, Phil, I'm a listener, I'm a worker, and also I've worked for city government for 25 years. I worked my way up from the bottom to the top. I'm not to the top, but I've worked myself up. My attributes are budget and finance, procurement, contracts. I think my attributes is that I'm a great listener and I'm out there to work for the people. I've lived in Ward 1 my entire life, and also I think I know what the ward needs, and I'm a constituent myself, so I know. But back to city government. I feel that I have the attribute that I can bring that knowledge to the city council with my background, like I said, in budget and finance. Also, I understand people because, like I said, when I worked for the city, I started off with customer service. So I know what it's like for people to come in when they can't afford to pay their bill. So I understand the other side of the spectrum. I've been there and I understand how they feel. And that's my attribute because I know how they feel. I know where they're coming from because I've been there too. And I've been there to help them. And that's why I'm running. And I think that's a great attribute.
Perfect. All right, now we're going to get into more of the specific issues as it pertains to the city. So we'll start with Doris on this question. If elected, what strategies and policies would you help create to support our local law enforcement and provide them with the necessary means to be successful?
For law enforcement?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to give you a brief because this is what I know that there's 22 officers out there, which 4 out of 5 of them are on the streets. So I know their concerns and needs, and I'm going to be truthful with you. I spoke with Chief Salazar, and he told me, I asked him for his concerns and his needs, and the number one concern is drugs. And the needs are the funding and training for drug enforcement,
Mhm.
training, funding for additional training in regards to mental illness. And another concern and needs that I will work on is the lack of vehicles and, most importantly, comparable salaries. Because we want retention and recruitment here. We want to keep our people here. We want to keep our public safety, our police here. We don't want them to go elsewhere. So it's very important that we pay them for what they're worth.
All right, perfect.
Thank you.
Francisco, same question for you. If elected, what strategies and policies would you create to support our local law enforcement and provide them with the necessary means to be successful?
Well, I think that there's several initiatives that are being undertaken now that would help to relieve some of those areas like chronic drug problems and drug addiction. I think that the LEADS program that is being undertaken by both the city and the county, along with El Centro, to have some type of a facility where we could divert some of these people that are drug addicted to become and commit crimes. If we can divert them into a program to basically help them, I think that would help the police a lot. And I'm falling right in line with them. I attended the Coffee with a Cop this weekend and had some very intimate talks with them and the district attorney about what are the big issues that are facing police anywhere else. And they're issues that are like everything else, but some of them that are unlike. I think we have a homeless problem that they're dealing with. I think the lack of officers on any one shift, that's problematic. If you get into trouble and you have to rely on either the sheriff or the state police to back you up, which takes time, which could lead to some very serious situations. I think we need to increase the number of police. We need to find the revenues, and there are revenue sources that we could use within the city that are existing to augment and basically raise salaries to keep officers, but not only that, to attract officers. I think that our community is an attractive place. We have relatively low crime rates as far as capital crimes or serious crimes. So I think that's attractive to some police, but you're still going to have those police issues any way you think about it. We have to tackle these problems with sincere and committed, active strategies that I haven't seen.
Perfect. All right. So you guys both touched on this a little bit, but this will give you an opportunity to expand on it a little bit more. Do you feel law enforcement is properly addressing the drug crisis in the community? And if not, what solutions would you bring to the table which have not yet been discussed? And we will start with Francisco on this one.
Well, again, I think the LEADS program and that is a good initiative. It's a good initial foray into this. The drug problem this is a tough one to tackle. We've been fighting drugs in this country, in this community, in this state for as long as I can remember. And I've been here in the community since I was a kid and I've seen it then. It seems to blossom. I think that one of the things that we have now with the legalization of cannabis is we'll have to see what that does to the community. Is it going to bring in and cause more problems that we'll have to deal with that are drug caused then? It's the harder drugs that we have to tackle, especially fentanyl, methamphetamine. Those are things that are ravaging our community as we speak. And I have not seen a concerted effort, perhaps a special task force, drug task force that were implemented early on in the early part of the 21st century and the 1990s. They seem to be well at interdicting some of the major places that were bringing drugs in. Perhaps that approach, coordination with other law enforcement agencies in the area, coordinating with state and federal if we have to. We're sitting on an interstate. We have other state and federal highways coming into Las Vegas. We have to figure, well, how are they getting here? What can we do? How can we stem it? And then how can we divert those people that get addicted into things like leads?
Yeah, perfect. All right. And Doris, same question for you. Do you feel law enforcement is properly addressing the drug crisis in the community? And if not, what solutions would you bring to the table which have not been discussed?
Well, there is a high volume of crime. The biggest challenge is drugs and narcotics. Well, what would we do to curb this issue? There was 3 assigned to narcotics along with the DA's office. And also, I'm just going to be honest, it's a team effort with the mayor and the council, staff and community, and the regional partners, the sheriff, the police department, state. It's a collective effort for all of us to work together to curb this issue.
Perfect. All right. And just before we move on to the next topic, anybody watching tonight's stream, feel free to leave comments or questions in the on Facebook or YouTube. And as time permits, we may be able to get to some of those and maybe not. But, you know, it's always good to have a good conversation going with the community and that you can let everybody know your biggest concerns, anything like that. So let's go on to the next question here. Some people say we have traffic problems, including speeding, running stop signs, racing, and aggressive driving. How would you mitigate those concerns without installing more speed bumps?
Me?
Yes, Doris.
Oh,
okay. With you.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
My recommendation. This is my recommendation. I guess apparently I saw the optic. I guess there's a sign, the sign that they want to put up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this was a collaborative effort on behalf of the council and the chief of police. To alleviate officers, you know, from street giving out street tickets. Anyway, I feel that there should be that they could hire a traffic control officer instead of this sign. That way, that it would give somebody the opportunity, you know, to work. And instead of giving a contracted business the money, I'd rather be seen within the city and give an officer the chance to have a job.
Perfect. All right. And Francisco, same question for you. How would you mitigate traffic concerns without installing more speed bumps?
Without speed bumps, it's kind of a tough question. I think that the camera that they're planning on implementing, I think that's proven to be somewhat effective in other areas. I know Albuquerque and Rio Rancho have implemented that. Santa Fe has. It seems to have alleviated it somewhat in those high speed areas. But what concerns me is I live on Church Street, which is a fairly quiet street right off the plaza. We have people blowing through here at 50, 60 miles an hour. No police around because they're too busy somewhere else. I think that the camera may be one solution. If you can place that in an area that's a potential high speed, high volume area, that may work and free up officers to come into other areas. But we're going to have to do something to mitigate this in some form or fashion. I think that there have been too many people, and it's been an interesting thing that I've read about recently. The increase in speeding in metropolitan areas and in probably in our area also is a lot of people souping up their cars because they watch these TV programs and they think they can get around away with street racing and these types of things, and it's really added to the problem. I know in Albuquerque it's out of hand, but here in Las Vegas, as I said, from my experience on Church Street, we've had people going through here, and I don't know how somebody hasn't gotten killed because they up and down in the middle of the night, all hours. I don't know what we can do except in these areas that are out of the mainstream is to add kind of speed mitigating things like speed bumps. I hate to say it, and you said without installing more speed bumps. I think it's going to have to be a combination of both. Yes. But as long as you have only 4 officers, I think cameras are necessary. Anything else you can do to free up officers to maybe get into these other areas that are off the main traffic areas where speeding is taking place.
All right, perfect. All right, on to a different topic here. What policy changes does the city need to address code enforcement problems in your ward? And we'll start with Francisco.
That's a good one. Now, code enforcement is somewhat of a troublesome area. In the ward, we're a mix of some business around the plaza and on Mills Avenue, and the rest is residential areas, school areas. And I see a mix of problems and concerns by people not complying with city codes. So you create some enforcement problem, people trying to get away with things or do things because they don't understand the code in a lot of times, which has led to red tagging, and we see a profusion of it. I know that this summer on my street alone, in one brief period of time, they red tagged 4 residents in a period of 2 days, which caused a little furor within the neighborhood here of what's going on. And I didn't know this and I didn't know that. Well, clean up your weeds and let's do these things and then mitigate these things. You need a permit to get a fence. You need to do this. You need to do something else. But it's a process of education also. I don't think a lot of people realize the codes that are enforced that we have in place that are there to maintain property values and clean the city up and these type of things. But it's a process of educating, and perhaps an outreach by the city code enforcement and community development and code enforcement area might be in order. I think that if we had public forums where they tell people about codes, maybe even articles in the optics, maybe appearing on radios, and these are the codes that we're having trouble with these things right now. These are the things you can do to mitigate it. But it's as is with every other law, it's a process of educating and then reaching out to let people know what it is.
All right, perfect. Doris, same question for you. What policy change does the city need to address code enforcement problems in your ward?
Phil, I'm going to agree with Francisco. It is a problem. It is a problem, and I think that we need to educate the people as to the ordinances, and I think we need a good enforcement officer to enforce it. And let me tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. One of my houses was red tagged. It's an old house, and we had planned on tearing it down a long time ago. But the thing is that it takes money. It takes money to tear down a house or whatever the case may be, whatever you get red tagged for. So I just agree that you need to educate the people. The only thing is that my recommendation is if you're going to red tag somebody, you have to think it over and you have to let people know, because if it's a big project, people don't have money. And especially in our ward, people do not have money just to get the red tag and act on it and have the money to tear it down or whatever the case may be. Right. So in my case, it took some time. I had to respond to code enforcement, and they worked with me, but still we had it done. We got it done. But like Francisco said, no, people need to get educated and they need to know. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Our next question tonight. The collection of tax revenues are ways in which the city gains revenue for specific uses of public dollars. How will you make certain we maximize the collection of all revenues in the city? And this is referring to lodger's tax. It's referring to things like that. So just things that the city collects money for that we have struggled with in the past to make sure that all the money is collected the way it's supposed to be. And just how will you make certain that we maximize those collections moving forward? And Doris, we're going to start with you on this one.
Okay. I am going to say, and I'm going to revert. I'm going to revert to tourism and economic development, and I'm going to revert to that because that brings in taxes that we can that we can utilize. And I think I'm lost on this one.
No, that's all right.
And then also, this is just my thoughts. I'm so sorry, everybody. I mean, there's different ways to collect, to get tax revenues, and this goes to bring in people. This goes to our parks. We can bring in revenue as far as if we can bring our parks up to code so that we can bring people in, so we can host state, district, for our kids, bring people in. And also, I'm going to refer to tourism. Those are, I think, my two main points. We can bring people in, and that would help.
All right, perfect. Francisco, same question for you. Collection of tax revenues are ways in which the city gains revenue for specific uses of public dollars. How will you make certain we maximize the collection of all revenues in the city?
Well, first of all, let's take lodger's tax, for example. You mentioned that. We have to make sure that people are paying their lodger's tax. I think that there's currently, we have a lot of Airbnb type places where people are turning their second residence into a rental. Are we collecting all those taxes? Are they registered as within the lodger's tax? Are we collecting them? Are they licensed? We have to make sure that everyone licensed to do any type of business where we have a tax revenue that is generated from that type of business, that they are registered and that they're complying. So we have to make sure that the revenues are in compliance with the licensure appropriate for that use. So whether it's lodger's tax, we have a big one coming up with cannabis. Most of that is going to the state. There was within the state legislation for cannabis, there was a municipal, an option for municipal taxation. That would have gained us more revenue directly to the city. We didn't take advantage of it. I don't know if it was not brought up. I don't know whoever wrote up the ordinance didn't do it right, but we're going to lose revenue there. We could have gained revenue from that. So there's opportunities, any opportunity we have to collect a revenue from a specific use that is governed and taxed, we should be doing it. We can't let people slide by because we know them or they have my cousin's cousin or something like that. We've got to make sure that we're collecting all the revenue that is allowed and is appropriate for the use. We have to have a method to make sure that everyone is in compliance. I don't see that happening. I think that we have a compliance issue within some areas. I think we do good on some things like solid waste, the gas. We get significant revenue from there, but we have to make sure that any other place that is governed and supposed to generate a revenue from taxes for that specific use, we have to make sure that everyone's in compliance and we're collecting it.
All right, perfect. All right. Next question tonight will be, how important do you believe attracting new people to our community is for both visitors and potential new residents? What strategies would you put in place to accomplish these goals? And Francisco, we will start with you.
Well, let's talk about visitors, tourists, visitors. I love tourists. Here's what I see as our community being. Right now, we are a service-based community. Most of our money comes from service type industries, restaurants, hotels, motels. We serve everyone. The other big revenue generator that brings people here would be state government, local governments that hire people to bring in. Those are no-brainers. We hire people for the highway department, for the behavioral health institute. They come here. We have to make sure that we treat them as citizens and we make them welcome. Just as we do tourists. Tourists are great. I think tourists should come here. We need to we need to attract tourists. We need to come up with strategies to attract more people here. Our outdoors are underutilized. We have a new state department, the outdoor recreation. We have many things here that we could capitalize on in this city to attract visitors. And tourists, what do? They come here, they have a good time, they drop their money, and they leave. For new businesses, we have to attract new small businesses that don't use one thing, water. We have a very limited resource of water. We have to be very careful about our growth. We have to be very careful about attracting new people here with new businesses. We have to really look at areas that are specific for growth and could add to growth in our community. I sat on a committee for the Chamber of Commerce. It was a cybersecurity committee where we were trying to attract people and businesses into town because we have a valuable resource that's underutilized in this community. We have that high-speed fiber optic cable that's sitting there, and really no one's using it. No businesses are using it. So we have an excess of bandwidth. If you look around the metropolitan areas from Pueblo to Denver north, from Santa Fe south, the bandwidth is taken up. We have something they don't, bandwidth. We could attract small cyber businesses to Las Vegas that would provide jobs, would provide revenue, and they don't use water.
All right, perfect. All right, Doris, same question for you. How important do you believe attracting new people to our community is, both visitors and potential new residents? What strategies would you put in place to accomplish these goals?
Okay, I'm going to revert this. I'm going to revert this to tourism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to focus on tourism. According to the New Mexico Tourism Department, we're seeing growth trends of travelers who are looking for an authentic and cultural rich experience. And I think Las Vegas is that gem that those travelers are looking for, as well as the people that want to move to Vegas. Tourism is essential for diversifying our economy. As one of the leading industries in New Mexico, we need to invest in small businesses that help us welcome and embrace tourists, as well as people welcome them to live here. The more visitors that come to Las Vegas, the more GRT we receive. New Mexico Tourism Department, or known as New Mexico TRU, has resources that we can tap into and leverage. As City Council for Ward 1, I ensure we foster a lasting relationship with that department to help us pay for marketing and advance public relation efforts. Las Vegas is so beautiful, and like Francisco said, it has much to offer. We should be proud of our hometown, welcome tourism and economic growth. And this is in collaboration with the city, county, NMHU, Luna Community College, Las Vegas First, Las Vegas Main Street, Las Vegas Arts Council, Economic Development. We need to work together on this.
Absolutely. All right, perfect. All right, this will get into a little bit of the city government specifically here. One of the biggest employment issues our community faces is nepotism. If elected, how will you handle nepotism in the workplace, and are you in favor of strengthening the nepotism guidelines at the city? Basically, a lot of families are very related here, and we've struggled in the past with people getting positions strictly based on family relations or anything like that. So we'll just touch on that a little bit. And Doris, we'll start with you.
Okay, first and foremost, this is a small town. Everybody's related to someone in one way or another, so you can't beat around that. I am not for nepotism, but the thing is, as long as you are not under a relative that gives you the chance to work for the city, as long as you're not under strictly under a relative, you're fine.
All right.
I'm strictly for and promoting nepotism guidelines at the city, though.
All right, perfect. Francisco, same question for you. If elected, how will you handle nepotism in the workplace? And are you in favor of strengthening the nepotism guidelines at the city?
Well, I think we have guidelines that are in place. You know, there's a personnel policy that really says you can't be hiring your relatives or you can't supervise them. So sanguinity is a big thing. You shouldn't, shouldn't hire mother, father, sister, brother, grandfather, grandmother, mother-in-law, father-in-law, and grandson, granddaughter. Outside of that circle, I mean, there you're getting out to places where, as they said, this is a small community. There's a lot of relatives here. I think that if we used the personnel policy to make sure that we're not supervising any one of our relatives. I don't have any relatives in town, so I'm not gonna, if I were there, I wouldn't hire anybody because I'm not related to anybody. I mean, I grew up here, but all my relatives either died or moved away. And we've been here for hundreds of years. But I think that we have to utilize the personnel policies that are in place, both at the city now. If they need to be strengthened, we follow the state personnel guidelines. They're pretty strong when it comes to hiring relatives. Those things are in place. Do we have to strengthen? I think we have to scrutinize when we're doing hiring and make sure that it's not, your brother, sister, or grandson. But if it's your cousin, I mean, are we going to be able to get away from that? It is a small community. But I think we have to diversify our workforce. I think we have to provide opportunities for everyone. But I mean, if you're going to have one or two generations away or one or two shades of sanguinity away, I think it's fine, but it's going to be difficult at times. Now, if I'm on city council, I don't think that other city councilors should hire their relatives, especially sons, daughters. No. Mm-hmm. Mother, father. We can't do that.
Yeah. But
if it's your fifth cousin that's twice removed on your mother's side, I mean, what can we do?
All right, perfect. All right, so let's go to the next question here. I think you guys have touched on this topic a little bit, but we can get more into it here. Homelessness is becoming a greater issue that affects certain public areas, such as the Riverwalk, parks, and local businesses. How will you address this issue if you are elected? And we'll start with Francisco here.
Well, it's a problem all over the nation. It's not just here in Albuquerque. You look at and see that problem of homelessness, and it affects us here. I didn't think that we'd have the amount of homelessness that we're experiencing in Las Vegas. And it's just unfortunate that the shelters are right next to public parks in the middle of a downtown business area. They are in Albuquerque also. It's something that we have to address, perhaps finding adequate space somewhere that's on the outskirts, away from business. I mean, you can't hide the issue. We have to deal with the issue. This is an issue of economics. It's an issue of, and let's face it, drug abuse. I mean, Lincoln Park. I've talked to people that live around there that say, it's terrible. It devalues property. We have to do something about it so that, one, we have a safe place to live and utilize. There was an incident not too long ago where there were needles in the swing area at Lincoln Park. I'm not saying it's the homeless people, but it's certainly, you could certainly point a finger there and say, oh, it's them causing us. There were people in the gazebo in daylight, doing their thing with male and female out in the open. I mean, it's inappropriate.
Yeah.
But we have to enforce. We have to have law enforcement involved, which means that we have to take very limited resources to address that. We're going to have to do what we can do to find a place that's adequate, that will provide the facilities and the services that they need.
All right, perfect. Doris, same question. Homelessness is becoming a greater issue that affects certain public areas such as the Riverwalk, parks, and local businesses. How will you address this issue if elected?
Well, Phil, homelessness, it's become a big issue, and that's not just like Francisco said, it's not just Las Vegas, it's all over the place. If you go to Albuquerque, you see it all over, and it literally breaks your heart. I think homelessness, it's a big problem, and in regards to the police officers, I'm just speaking on behalf of what the chief of police said. He says that he would like more accountability from the caregivers. But homelessness, it reverts back to mental illness, drug abuse. So I think this is a collaborative effort, not only the city, but it's county and it's the public safety. It's a collaborative effort that we need to figure out, because it does affect the community and our children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Doris, I know this is something that you brought up as one of your focus points tonight. So we will get to, how do you feel the city has handled animal control in recent years, and what changes would you make to the way it is handled locally if elected? And we'll start with you.
I think animal control is a big issue, and I have spoken with many people. I guess we haven't had, I mean, there's been 19 officers within 8 years. That's a serious concern. I spoke with a relative of a police officer, and she's concerned about police officers having to pick up animals. And also I spoke with Marshall from the Animal Welfare Coalition, and they too are very concerned. I'm looking at this in a positive way in terms of animal control collaborating with the AWC. They work together regarding the safety and caring of all animals. The coalition is licensed and trained to run the shelter, and they too are asking for an animal control to collaborate with in working out in the field. So I will work with the mayor and city council to get our animal control back. We really need it. And just to let you know that the AWC, we cannot afford to lose them. They are really doing a good job. And just to let everybody know, I mean, they do free spaying, neuters, microchips, rabies shots, vaccines. They provide harnesses, collars, pet food. They even provide straw for animals that you keep outdoors. So we really can't afford to lose them. So that's going to be one of my efforts, is to bring in the animal control back.
All right. Perfect. Francisco, same question for you. How do you feel the city has handled animal control in recent years? And what changes would you make to the way it is handled locally if elected?
Well, I think that, at one time the city had to basically look for, or they were lucky to gain the Animal Welfare Coalition to take over the city animal control department. I think they do a good job. I think that we need to help fund them adequately so that they can keep animal control officers. It's just like the police force. If you don't adequately fund it, you're going to lose cops. So here's a problem of funding. It's also a problem of education. How do these dogs or cats become feral animals that are just turned out? I mean, we have to educate the public. Hey, if your kid wants a puppy, this is a long-term commitment. You can't just say, oh, the puppy's cute, let's keep him for a while and let's get rid of him. How do you get rid of them? Oh, open the door and kick them out. Then they become a problem. This is education at the very root. We have to go into the schools and talk to kids about how serious it is to keep a pet. And it starts with youth. If you can educate the youth, it translates to educated parents, which translates to educated and responsible pet owners. I think that the Animal Welfare Coalition does a good job of spaying and neutering. I think we have an overpopulation of feral animals that don't belong to anybody, that have been turned out. We're going to have to deal with it. It is becoming a large problem in this community, and it's sad to see.
Absolutely. All right. This goes back to city government a little bit. If elected, how will you ensure that employees are treated with respect, dignity, and rewarded for their hard work while maintaining positive morale? And we'll start with you, Francisco.
Well, we've got to stop micromanaging employees. We've got to really look at, from the department directors down, hire professional people to do the job. The last time we had a city government that really had an effective and operational government was back when Les Montoya was city manager. I talked to Les the other day. I said, you were the last city manager where you really had a professionalized staff that didn't micromanage employees, that let them do their job, and you had good employee morale. People liked the city. They came to work at the city. Now you got to go find workers and hope they come to the city. And I know we have a problem with other people getting their nose and in people's business where they shouldn't be. We should keep our department directors to run their respective departments and instill positions that people are proud to work in, and instill a good morale within each department. If we get involved in the day-to-day operations of people in their day-to-day workplace, it's going to lead to morale problems. It's going to lead to problems of a lack of respect, and people are going to feel that they don't have any dignity with their job. It goes hand in hand with professionalism in the workplace. We have to get back and instill a professional workplace. A professional work environment leads to positive morale, positive influence, good workers, and workers that respect the place where they work.
All right, perfect. Doris, same question for you. If elected, how will you ensure that employees are treated with respect, dignity, and rewarded for their hard work while maintaining positive morale?
First and foremost, I would stick up for our current employees. I mean, we need to treat them with respect and dignity. I've been there. You need to, and I agree with Francisco. I mean, there's no need to micromanage, and especially as far as the city council's perspective, you do not interfere with the day-to-day business of, the city business. You do not do that. You let them do their work, but you do have to treat them with dignity and respect. And also, I do feel that a lot of these, actually, I think all the employees, we need to pay them for what they're worth.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
I just have a closing comment there.
Okay.
And this is only because this is how I felt, and I'm sure everybody feels, whenever there's a new council that comes in or a new mayor that comes in, a lot of the employees fear, for their jobs, or they fear that they're going to be transferred. And I tell you, that was a fear of mine for 25 years. So that's one reason why you got to treat them with respect and dignity, and you don't mess with their livelihood.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so this last question that I have prepared, we do have a couple from the comments that I'm going to bring out after this, but this one gives you guys a little bit more free rein, and I'm going to expand the time limit on this a little bit. 3-4 minutes. I'll be a little more flexible. Is there a specific issue in the community that has not been a topic of discussion tonight or with the city previously, or just anything you want to bring up, any kind of issue that you would like to talk about and get your opinion out there heard of? And Doris, we'll start with you on this one.
Let me see here. Let me think. I would say probably water. I think that's a big issue. Now that we're facing this drought. I mean, we're facing, well, this drought that we're facing is a federal and state and local concern, but it's all about water. This warming climate has kept New Mexico in a drought. And I tell you what, we drastically need Mother Nature. Water is life, and it must be at the top of our priority list regarding preserving and conserving. I tell you, agua es vida. We need to protect and collaborate with our watersheds and associations and our sequía associations. And also we need a long-term water comprehensive plan. And I was reading, it was as of February 8th, the Las Vegas is in a severe drought, but we're not to the point of an exceptional drought, but thank goodness for that. But if you go to the city website, you can find out the water report. That's my main concern right now.
All right, perfect. Francisco, same question for you. Is there any specific issue in the community that you'd like to bring up that we haven't talked about tonight, or do you feel like is being underreported at the city?
Well, it kind of goes in hand with the water issue, but I think that what we lack in this community, and it really hasn't been brought up, we have the Hermit's Peak Water Alliance that has done a good job between Bridge Street and Independence Avenue of cleaning up that area, making it cleaner, looking at from a viability standpoint, planting gardens, doing orchards and this type of thing. But that's only a small part of the river, which is part of the water problem that we have here. I think that we have to do something to bring in some external revenue sources, perhaps forming a special district that would address the arroyos and the river situation on a large systemic scale that would really even affect our roadways. If we could do something like Albuquerque does with the Albuquerque Metropolitan Flood Control, which brings in a whole different set of revenue to address issues of water and flood control, we could address issues along the arroyos that are point sources of pollution that enter into the river system. We could eliminate all the invasive species, all these Chinese elms that grow up and down our arroyos that are water hogs and point sources of pollution. If we did that, we could clean up the arroyos and clean up the river, eliminate all those Chinese elms and the invasive species, and at the same time affect drainage. Most of our streets, especially in Ward 1, we have no storm sewers. Our roads are our drains. If we formed a special district with flood control, we could pave the streets and put in drainage into those streets at the same time, because the streets are your drains. We would give us a whole new revenue source besides our road funds to clean up the area and affect the water that flows through town. If you're really serious about a river walk and everything else, let's clean it up by using an external district with external revenue sources to augment and supplement what the city already has. We could clean it up, not just piecemeal like the Hermit's Peak Water Alliance is doing, because they have very limited grant sources. I'm talking about forming another entity that the municipality could do, because it's within their jurisdiction, the special districts within the New Mexico statutes, that would allow us to bring in other revenue sources to do large systemic change in this community, not just little tiny projects that I can afford within my road budget every year. We're never going to catch up, and you're never going to have large scale change in this community unless you can figure out how to bring in external revenue sources that would diversify our revenue stream to take on large scale projects, water and drainage and roads at one time. That's the way to do it. And I've been preaching this for 3 or 4 administrations, and everybody thinks I'm crazy. The legislation is there. If Albuquerque and Las Cruces can do it, why can't we?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we have a couple comments that I'd like to put on the screen here from some viewers that we have tonight. So our first question comes from Gavin Peterson, who asks, is it more important for the city currently to focus on building new homes and commercial spaces or focus on refurbishing and expanding our existing homes and businesses? And Francisco, we'll start with you on this one.
Well, I think infill and doing existing homes and existing spaces is always a good thing to do. The problem with that is it's expensive. It's almost double the cost to refurbish and instead of new building. I'm not saying we should, I'm not a proponent of sprawl, but I'm just saying if we can do this and focus on what the existing buildings and existing spaces that we have, I'm a proponent of that. It just so happens that most of our existing building and spaces are also historical. Mm-hmm. So that would go hand in hand with this. I say, yes, we could do this, and the focus should be on that. The concerned citizens, the Citizens for Historic Progress, CCHP, mm-hmm. whatever the acronym stands for. They do a good job of promoting those historic places, which consequently are within our commercial spaces. And we do have areas, especially within our ward, that could be refurbished and would provide a boon for the existing residents there, the current residents, to really raise the valuation of their property so that they don't have to leave. So we don't have a sanification of Las Vegas. We don't want gentrification. We'd like to have a gentrification, but controlled by the existing residents. So we see an increase in their income and their worth, which adds to the community as a whole. Yeah. We have to have a concerned and specific plan to do this, but I think it's possible.
All right, perfect. And Doris, let's go to the same question for you. Is it more important for the city to focus on building new homes and commercial spaces or focus on refurbishing and expanding our existing homes and businesses?
Actually, I think that's kind of a hard question. It all depends, because if the city is going to purchase new homes or refurbish as a whole, okay, I think that's great. That's something that can be talked upon as a collaborative. But if this is going to be placed on the homeowner himself, mm-hmm. I think this could be quite expensive, because in speaking in regards to the people in our ward, it's pretty expensive to do either one. Yeah. Now, if they could refurbish their homes, I think that would be a priority, and it would probably be more cost effective. And also, if there were funds and grants that could help them to refurbish their homes, I think that would be great in regards to what is, I guess, their CDBG funds. Mm-hmm. If we can revert to that, I think that would be great.
All right, perfect. And now let's go on to, let's do some closing statements, and we will start with Doris tonight. I know it says 2 minutes. We could probably do 2 to 3. We have a little bit more flexibility here, so go ahead and say whatever you'd like to say, Doris.
First and foremost, I just have a simple question, and this is to start off my closing comments. Mm-hmm. Where is our current counselor? It would be nice if he would have been here so he could have answered some questions, and also so he can let the people know where he stands and what he's done the past 8 years, and also where he's going forward as his platform is concerned. And also he could have given the people, he could have answered questions in regards to the council's perspective. So that's just a closing remark, should I say. So in regards to my closing remarks, I really want to thank you and everybody for chiming in. I will listen and learn about your concerns and ideas, and then act in the common interest of the people of Ward 1. I am a team player, and I understand that success is the city is based on teamwork and working with the mayor, city council, departments, employees, and most importantly, the individual community members. I respectfully ask for your vote and support on election day. Thank you for your precious time and consideration. I say vote for Doris Gallegos, Ward 1, number 3 on your ballot. Es tiempo de cambiar. It's time for change. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Francisco, let's have a closing statement from you tonight.
Well, I think that we've said a lot tonight, and you got where I'm coming from. I think the people that viewed this, and I hope you got a better understanding of my perspective on what we need to do within the city to really do wholesale systemic change that would be beneficial for the community and beneficial for the residents. It takes us all to make a difference, and we need to make a difference if we're going to progress in this city, if we're going to go anywhere, or else we might as well put up a grave and go the way of the rest of northeastern New Mexico has gone, and really just go by the wayside. We see rampant exodus from northeastern New Mexico, and we have such a lovely, beautiful, historic place. We need to get together as a community to go forward, keep our kids here, provide jobs, fix the problems we have. But it takes us all to make a difference. And that's been what I said on my campaign. It's time to make a difference, and it takes us all to make a difference. Mm-hmm. I think I bring a lot to the table. I think my experience is what's needed here. I think I've proved myself over and over, both in the public sector and at Luna Community College, where I'm the director of STEM and humanities. Seen what I've done there with basically nothing. We brought our students forward. We can do the same for the city, but we have to do very large systemic change and diversify our revenue so that we have more money coming into our city to be able to do more positive impact projects. And we have some major issues here, and we've talked about them tonight. So we have a lot of hard questions to ask ourselves. And between ourselves, we'll be able to make a difference and make a change. If you help me get elected, I can be the product, the bearer of change. I'll carry the torch. Support me. Thank you. And I want to thank you, Phil, for allowing us to come forth tonight. Again, as Doris said, I wish that the incumbent would be here. It is what it is. Yes. But we're going to go forward from here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. And I just want to thank both of you for participating tonight. It was great to have both of you here. And for everyone watching, we're going to take about a 10-minute break before we get to the next forum. So I'm going to play the 5-minute video you saw at the beginning of this probably twice. And I would like to thank both of you. And I hope you guys both have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right.
Bye, Phil. Bye, Francisco.
Goodbye.
We'll see you.
All right, we are back for the second forum of the evening with our Ward 3 and 4 candidates, and we will bring them in right now. We will start with Barbara Perea Casey. How are you doing this evening?
I'm fine. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having us. I had a little trouble with my computer, so I'm on the telephone. So if I look kind of weird, that's why.
Well, the setup looks good, so no worries there.
Okay,
All right.
great.
Second, we have Elaine Rodriguez, and you are on mute.
Hello. Thank you, Phil, for hosting the forum. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we have David Romero from Ward 4. David, how are you?
I'm doing good, Phil. How are you doing? Thank
I
you
am
for having
good.
us.
Thank you for joining me here tonight. It is much appreciated that all of you took time out of your nights to spend a little time with us here. So we are going to start with the opening statements here, and we're going to start with Barbara Perea Casey to start us off tonight. Go ahead.
Okay. People often ask me why I'm running, and I'm running because I love Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is a part of me, and I'm a part of it. I am what I am today because of the way that Las Vegas has molded me and made my life. I believe very strongly that as a citizen of Las Vegas, I should be actively involved in what is going on in our town. I'm a volunteer for numerous nonprofit organizations, all of them with causes that I believe in: literacy, health, education, church, economic development, politics, children. I want to stay connected to the people of my community, and I want to be of service to the people who make Las Vegas a wonderful place to live. Being on the city council will allow me to have the opportunity to speak on behalf of the people, voice their concerns, and hopefully make positive changes that improve the lives of all citizens. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Barbara. Elaine, your opening statement, please.
I just wanted to introduce my grandkids because they don't get on YouTube much. So that's Catalea and Mia. Okay. And they are the reasons I run. Okay. Or I'm running. I learned a lot. Okay. When I was appointed in the 16 months that I've been serving. And I want to be able to continue that service. And also, when I start looking at, our community, I really enjoy providing and helping community residents. I served in the military for 6 years, the Air Force. I received my master's from Highlands, and I fell in love with this community when I went and completed my master's. I have my PhD in political science. So a lot of what I teach is about state and local government. And my students challenge me and say, okay, Dr. Rodriguez, you teach about theory. Now you got to put that to practice. And now it's me putting this to practice. But once Mr. Joe Baca resigned and I was appointed, I learned a lot. Okay, I learned a lot about the inequities in our community. And that's one of the reasons I want to continue serving, is I want to bring equitable resources to all wards. I run from one ward, but we all commute and work throughout Las Vegas. So I think it's very important that we bring all resources to the city of Las Vegas, and not just focus on our wards. But I do run from a ward, but I really believe strongly in providing services and resources to east of Railroad, to the west side, in addition to the east side. I also have 3 grandchildren. You met 2 of them. My third one is watching cartoons. He's not much of a public speaker. So he, and that's the reason why. And I just enjoy working with community and students. So it's not really about me. It's not my political agenda. It's the residents' agenda.
David, for our final opening statement, you go right ahead.
All right. Thank you, Phil, and welcome, Councillor Casey and Councillor Rodriguez. Everybody, my name's David Romero. I think many of you probably know me. If you don't know me, we have a family-owned business, Romero's Automotive, that has been in operation since 1979. I'm 45 years old. I've spent over 20 years in one capacity, serving my community, whether coaching. I had 8 years that I served on the West Las Vegas School Board, 4 years currently on the City Council. I also am very active, continue to be active in the education field, where I serve as an advisor role to the Public of Education Secretary. I totally believe that I decided to run for Cecil 4 years ago, and today I believe that my 4 years of service, we're in a better position today than we were 4 years ago when I was running. And I decided to run for re-election because I want to continue that service and continue to help the city move forward, because I think we're headed in the right direction. We're never perfect. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed in this community, and I'm anxiously waiting to discuss some of those ideas and some of the concerns that our community has. And that's about it for now, Phil. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So we are Elaine, you're going to start out with this first question of the evening. We're going to rotate throughout the night. So our first question is going to be, what specific attributes do you possess that you feel makes you uniquely qualified to serve on the city council?
The attributes. One of the things that I think is really important is I work in teams. I work collaboratively. I think in a collective environment. I work with students, with faculty, with administration. And I think that really affords me the opportunity to take those skills and attributes and work with other, collaboratively with other individuals. Also, I listen. I think it's important to be a good listener, and an active listener, not a listener that is forming their response while listening, but an active listener, because that's very important for residents. They want you to know that you're listening to them and that you're going to respond to them. So I think it's very important, again, that working in a team, collaboratively, and I think the city council has done that, at least in the 16 to 18 months I've been working there. And I think as a city council, we've done a lot for the community in giving resources and services to our residents. Yes.
David, you are next on this question. What specific attributes do you possess that you feel makes you uniquely qualified to continue serving on the city council?
Okay. First off, Phil, real quick, just to kind of clarify, I'm running unopposed. I know,
Yes.
I'm in Ward 4, just to kind of clarify that. I don't know if I
Yes.
missed that. But I think the attributes that qualify me to serve on city council is I think I have a history of being ethical.
This side of the room.
Hang on. Barbara, can you mute? Thank you.
I have a history of being ethical. I think I have, in my 12 years of public service, I've shown integrity. I stay updated with laws, and I'm a hard worker. I know that everything that I do, I put in the time and effort to make sure that the situations within the concerns from community are addressed. And I'm a team player. I've served with 2 mayors. I've served with I believe it's 1, 2, 3, 5 city councilors. And I could say honestly that I think for the most part, except for maybe 1, maybe 2 now, I have respect for both. We have respect both one way and another. I get along with them to this day. And also, I'm a good listener, and I'm also somebody that's willing to not make a prejudgment, but listen to both sides of an issue. And I'm willing to adapt where, if I listen, I might have my mindset on certain things, but I adapt to certain situations. And I think that's very important, serving on city council. Thank you.
All right. Great. And Barbara, same question for you. What specific
Okay.
attributes do you possess that you feel makes you uniquely qualified to serve on the city council?
First and foremost, I love people. I love Las Vegas. I love this community. And I was raised in a family of public servants. My dad especially was on the city council many years ago, over 50 years ago. And he was a law enforcement officer. He was a penitente. He was a very giving and loving human being, and he taught us all that we should always do what we can to help people. Doesn't matter what. His favorite saying was, haz bien y no mires a quién. That means do good, and it doesn't matter who you do it to. Don't pay attention to who they are. Just be good to everybody. And so I have experience on the council. I served for 4 years. I am a certified city councilor, certified by the New Mexico Municipal League. I also have experience at the legislative level. I served in the New Mexico legislature representing Chaves and Eddy counties for 12 years. And I still have connections with the legislature, so I would be a built-in lobbyist, so to speak. And so I bring that to the table also. I have also a doctorate in organizational management and educational leadership. And I believe that with my experience, my background, my love of community, that I am well qualified to be on the city council. And I'm a hard worker. I never give up. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this next question will begin with David Romero. And it is, if elected, what strategies and policies would you create to support our first responders and provide them with the necessary means to be successful?
Well, thank you, Phil. And again, I guess this answer kind of goes to my history. We could talk about it, but I think in my 4 years, I've actually, adopted and proposed ordinances and policies that would support first responders. I think one of the first ones that we did is we proposed an ordinance that had to deal with an ordinance that had to basically set aside some funding for public safety. That fund is currently gaining some revenue, which we can, later on use towards our public safety officers. We continue to look at different ways. I know, as far as first responders and firefighters, we always got to adapt and find different ways, because from our general fund, we never have enough funding for, just for raises and things like that. So we got to look at different, revenue sources. We looked at business licenses, some fees to, change ordinances to where, we increase fees to maybe help out, with the first responders and doing that. But of course, we got to follow state statute. So, things like that is what I'm always doing. We're always researching, always doing my homework. And I think in any elected official, that's what you should be looking for. But so I think I've done that within my 4 years, and I'll continue to do that if I'm reelected. Thank you.
Great. Barbara, same question for you. If elected, what strategies and policies would you create to support our first responders and provide them with the necessary means to be successful?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, Barbara, you're up.
Just double checking, because you
Anybody
were
who-
breaking up.
Oh, sorry about that.
I have a real soft spot for our first responders and our people that are out on the front lines. And I believe that we need to support them at all levels. We need to provide them with training. We need to provide them with salaries that are commensurate with the job that they do. I believe that we need to a means within the city coffers to be able to compensate them well, and also to recruit others to come to Las Vegas. We have very few police officers, which is a big concern. And it really hurts me and bothers me when people post things on Facebook like, the police aren't doing their job, they don't know what they're doing, all that kind of stuff. These people, men and women, put themselves out there in dangerous situations. Oftentimes they're on duty alone. We need to really respect them, show them our support, and do everything that we can within our power as counselors, as citizens. Everybody has a responsibility to treat our first responders with dignity and respect. And I think that if we could do that, if we could get our collective bargaining agreements negotiated quickly so that our officers can get their salaries and working conditions that they want and deserve, I think those are some of the things that we need to get done.
Great. And Elaine, same question for you. If elected, what strategies and policies would you create to support our first responders and provide them with the necessary means to be successful?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to be in contact with them, talking to them, speaking with the we can't assume that just because we sit on city council that we know what's best for them. So one, you have to always be in the community observing and speaking to them to find out what their needs are. Second, what also is important is always keeping the public informed. And I think we've done a really good job on city council with the chief of police coming and reporting monthly as far as the different crime rates and all of the burglaries and assaults and tickets and that, and keeping our public informed, because if our public's informed about what's being done, then they're probably less likely to criticize or kind of be a little bit more negative. That often we don't keep them informed, and we have to do a better job of that. The other thing is also we need to provide them with the resources. I agree with Ms. Casey is that they need to have the resources. And it's just not putting money all the time into it, but making sure they have the adequate training, that they're not overworked. My son-in-law was a previous firefighter and worked for the ambulance. And I talked to him, and he gives me some excellent ideas. I think first and foremost, we can't assume that we are the experts. We have to rely on the community to provide us with a lot of this information. And it's being supportive, making the community aware of what we're doing, being supportive, and providing them with the training and making sure they're not overworked, and that the share of the work is spread. That we don't have top administrators that are sitting in their offices while the foot soldiers are out doing the work and being overworked. It has to be adequately distributed to protect our community and serve our community.
Okay.
Thank
Great.
you.
Absolutely.
Excellent question.
Thank you. All right, we are going to go back to Barbara to begin this question, back to the top of our order. And the question is, do you feel law enforcement is properly addressing the drug crisis in our community? If not, what solutions would you bring to the table that have not been discussed?
I think that our law enforcement is doing everything they can to address the issue of, the drug problem that we have. I think we have lots of different entities that are working within the city to work with our sheriff's office, the city police, state police. We have the 100% community initiative that's taking place also. I think that that in particular is a good thing because we have now the a building that will be available to have walk-in drug crisis center. I think that that's really very needed here in Las Vegas. And I think that by working together, collaborating, partnering, those are some of the best things that we can do. It's very frustrating for the police and for the judges, as the same people keep getting arrested. They come in, it's a revolving door. They stay in jail, they get out, and then they do the same thing all over again. The recidivism rate is rather high for drug users. So we need to get them the help that they need so that they can stop doing drugs, help them rehabilitate, and maybe if we had some kind of vocational training program for them also, that would be something that would benefit them and the community. So I think the police are doing everything they can right now. The sheriff's office is doing everything they can right now. And everyone is working together, which I think is very important to see how we can best ameliorate this issue.
Great. Elaine Rodriguez, you are this next person to answer this question. Do you feel law enforcement is properly addressing the drug crisis in the community? And if not, what solutions would you bring to the table that have not been discussed?
Well, I think it's really an interesting issue because, a lot of these issues aren't just mutually exclusive to our community. You watch the national news and you see it in other communities in other cities. And often, when I work with my students, they take on these research projects. And a group of students this last semester took on the drug issue in our community. And it was really fascinating because a lot of the information that they focus on is pharmaceutical companies. And that's one area that we don't really regulate. We have started regulating a little in that area, but it's really unregulated. And that's where a lot of people, they get their prescription drugs, and it starts at a young age. I mean, when you have a lot of these individuals, these young kids who are doing sports and they get hurt, then they're put on oxycodone, and they continue. And then when they're, in high school and in other schools, they're addicted. So that one is a large problem. So we have to start looking at regulations of pharmaceutical companies. Other areas is it's definitely a collaborative effort. We have to be working with the county, the city, Highlands, often Luna. We have these universities that we don't really utilize in regards to their services and expertise in helping us solve some of these issues. Other is we need to really focus on rehabilitation and not locking them up. That can't be our go-to, is locking them up and throwing them in jail. There has to be an alternative to rehabilitate, working with these individuals to be able to help them work on their goals, and if they want to go to school, then go to school, employment. But it is a collaborative effort. Thanks, Phil. I think my time's up.
You're good. All right, David, same question for you. Do you feel law enforcement is properly addressing the drug crisis in the community? And if not, what solutions would you bring to the table that have not previously been discussed? Oh, David, you're on mute.
Thank you, Phil. There's a couple sides to this issue. Is right now, as far as law enforcement, we could always do better. I think one thing that has lacked in the past, and I think what we're trying to do, and they're starting to do it, is they're bringing back Region 4, which Region 4 had kind of basically went away there for a while. And that's not because the sheriffs and the city police. There's other agencies that are involved in it that they kind of just went by the wayside. So we're bringing back those collaborative efforts. That's as far as drug enforcement. We have users and we have dealers. We have users that they need the treatment, and we need to address that. And we have a treatment center that's coming in, and there's many, like Councilor Casey said, many individuals working on that part, that aspect of it. And then we have the dealers, and those are the ones that I think that we really need to put a handle on, because those are the individuals that are hurting this community, and they're doing it for money. They're doing it for other reasons that, aren't good reasons. So we need to tackle it from two different perspectives. And dealers, this is where the law enforcement part comes in. Again, I could honestly say that with collaborative efforts, we have the DA, the Sheriff's Office, state police, and also we need the state very involved, the state itself involved in these issues, and that's happening. I know people want to see results overnight, and that's not going to happen, because we can't. I mean, the Region 4 isn't going to come out and say, hey, this is what we're looking at doing, because they have to have an undercover part to it to, put a sting together and go after those dealers. So, I'd like to let the community know that is going on. This council and this administration, with the leadership that we have, we're trying to address that. And like I've said, this isn't something that hasn't happened. I mean, it's things are coming together. I know it's not as fast as the community wants, but we're trying to address things as fast as we can and trying to take care of these issues. Again, as far as the users, we all have family members, and this is a community issue. And we have to admit, if the family member needs help, we need to help them out and not continue to just kick them out of the house. And that leads to homelessness and a lot of different issues. So there's two perspectives to it. We can do more as far as law enforcement, as far as like the city council and the governing body. We need to continue to fund them properly. I know we did put the positions out there for 3 narcotics agents. Unfortunately, it's always hard to fill. We're going to get criticized. Oh, well, you guys, it's very easy. Hire police officers, hire police officers. It's not that easy. When we pick up our pay, we increased pay plan $3 an hour for police officers. State police is giving a 17%. So what's going to happen? We're going to lose police officers. So we need, during this legislative session, we were with, all right. Thank you, Phil.
Sorry about that, David. Want to keep us on schedule here. All right. Dr. Rodriguez, you are going to start us out on the next question. Some people say we have traffic problems, including speeding, running stop signs, racing, and aggressive driving. How would you mitigate those concerns without installing more speed bumps?
We have tried to address some of those issues on city council. One, with increasing, ticket and court in that regard. We also have brought in noise ordinances. We've talked about bringing in, and we have put an ordinance in for automated, the kind of standalone where you can move it around and it captures the picture. I constantly am getting calls from residents about speeding, and once I get those calls, I contact the police department, and they'll send additional officers over into their areas. So the police has been excellent in responding to these various areas. The other thing is we just have to, this is a community responsibility. It's not a matter of just putting more and more money, because we don't have endless pots of money. And we have a lot of issues that are very expensive to do anything. If you do a road repair, that's, over 1.5 million. We've brought in more updated kind of police vehicles. We brought in better computer systems. A lot of it also is to bring in resources and up-to-date resources in that regard. And we get a lot of speeders. A lot of it is sending our police officers to kind of oversee that. But we only have so many police officers that are responding to other issues. And speed bumps aren't the answer. We have a lot of speed bumps when we have our trucks going out and cleaning the streets and plowing the snow. It reduces the speed bumps. So then we have to put in new speed bumps. But it's also working with the community and teaching community that, we're responsible for each other, that this is our community. Teaching, it starts with education in elementary, middle school, at the college level, high school, to be better neighbors to each other.
All right.
Sorry, Phil, going over my time.
You're all right. All right. Barbara, same question for you. How would you mitigate traffic concerns?
I think this has been an issue that has been going on for a long time. And I think that we need to make sure that people understand that it's not just a matter of, getting caught racing or driving too fast or not obeying driving laws. It's a matter of safety. We have a lot of neighborhoods with elderly people. We have a lot of neighborhoods with a lot of children. We need to protect those citizens by ensuring that people are paying attention to the laws that are in place. And I want to commend Councilor Romero, because he came up with the idea of having an automated machine, if you want to call it that. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's an automated speed monitor that you can place anywhere. It takes a picture of the speeder, it gets a picture of the license plate, and then those are taken to the police department. They review it. Yes, this person was speeding, and then a ticket is issued to that person. It also, I think, increased the ordinance for that particular automated machine would also come along with an increase in the fines for speeding. And I think people sometimes don't pay attention, and before you know it, you're going a lot faster than you think you are. Some of the newer model cars also are a lot faster than the older ones, and before you know it, you're going way faster than you thought. And so people just we need to work on teaching them that they have to pay attention to the laws. And I think education is a good part, and not just for young children, but everyone.
Absolutely. All right. And David Romero, same question for you. How would you mitigate traffic concerns? I know you've been involved in a lot of this, and just before you start talking, you are on mute right now.
Thank you, Phil. Again, as we go through a lot of these items, a lot of these issues are, in my 4 years, I'm a problem solver. We could sit here and we can complain, but we try to. In my 12 years have always been a problem solver. So first coming into council, people want speed bumps, and we put speed bumps, and then those are an issue. And I made this comment the other night when I asked the council to support this ordinance, is that we cannot continue to be a community of speed bumps. Las Vegas speed bump city, because if you kind of look around, that's kind of what's happened. We have ordinances in place that, speed bumps should be in certain places, and there's different things, but, and we're going through all that, but we put speed bumps on one street and it turns and it, into another street that becomes the freeway now. So with that, we know that, people say, well, put more officers in the street. Again, we fall into the situation where it's hard to recruit officers. Again, because of pay. We're doing everything that we increase $3, the state increases, and we come into that issue where it's hard to fill those positions. So this was the automated speed enforcement was just something because, as we mentioned mentioned in the previous, also in the previous forum, we have 4 officers on duty some nights, the weekends more, sometimes we have five officers. You got to look at, we have drug calls, we have domestic violence calls, that all these officers are tending to those, to those calls, that they can't sit down and do a saturation patrol. A full staffed police department can do that. Unfortunately, we're not in the position that we could do that. So this was an out of the box thinking where, hey, you know what, we need to we need to continue to enforce some of these speed regulations, but how do you do it? Signage is one of them. You put up new signage. For a while, people, they obeyed the signs, but then what happens? They forget about the signs. So this automated thing, what it does is, I know there's been criticism as to, well, it doesn't work. Well, when they first proposed it, they've changed the ordinances to adapt to where now an officer will have to sign off on the tickets, and that's going to happen. So basically, we could put these things, and they're going to be movable to any, where we feel, there's the need. We'll put them in different areas, and we'll try to, combat, speeding in this community as best we can. It's never going to be perfect, but it's better than what we have today. Thank you, Phil.
Absolutely. And I got a little out of order here, so David is actually going to start our next question as well, just to keep us on track here. What policy changes does the city need to address code enforcement problems in your ward?
Okay. And going to this, Phil, I think code enforcement has been a big issue. This probably goes back to even before Councillor Casey was there, and we could ask councillors, 10, 15 years from now. Code enforcement has always been a big issue. As far as policy changes that need to happen, that I believe, and is we have our ordinances that, basically we have our 10-day, for instance, let's say vehicles that are abandoned vehicles. So what people have been accustomed to is they'll move that vehicle, and it's not basically where it was at. So they restart the system again over and over. And we have some constituents that, let's say weeds in that. Every year, they're always the same, residents that are not abiding by our ordinances, and code enforcement has to go in there and address it. So one thing, as far as policy change for code enforcement, I think we need to look at repeat offenders, which if they're the same individuals that are continuing, code enforcement is continuing to have to address. I think we need to change some language on that to where repeat offenders, you don't have as much time, or you can't move the vehicle from here to there today, and then you restart your 10 days or the 10 days, and then you get a citation, and the whole process. So that whole process needs to be curbed down entirely, in order to do what we have to do. At the same time, we as citizens need to take pride in our community. We can't continue to say, well, I never cleaned my yard for 10 years. Why should I start today? We need to take pride, and this will kind of lead to, something later on. I know a future question that's coming up, but we need to help each other out. We need to help our seniors that if they can't cut their weeds, let's help them out. Let's take pride in our community and our neighborhoods. And I think that's one of the things that needs to be addressed as far as code enforcement. Thank you.
Great. Barbara, you are up next here. What policy changes does the city need to address code enforcement problems in your ward?
I think that, first of all, we need to have code enforcement officers who actually know the code very well. And I say this because I had a business owner that called me up and said, Barbara, code enforcement is, asking us to do all these things, and we have permits for what we're doing. We have every kind of permit that we are required to have by city ordinance. And we're still, for some reason or other, they felt like they were being targeted. And so they asked me if I would meet with them when the code enforcement officer went to their building, and I did. And we were just talking. The person that went from the city looked a little bit nervous, and I was trying to make him feel comfortable. So I just started asking him questions, like, where are you from and how long have you been here, that kind of stuff. And then I said, so why is this an issue? Because these people have everything in order. They have their licenses, they have their permits, they're following the law. And he didn't know. And so I felt bad for him because he didn't have a handle on what the code enforcement ordinance says. Another issue is what Councilor Romero just mentioned. A woman called me up and she said, I can't do everything that the city wants me to do. She said, my husband is disabled. I have to take care of him. I have a small child that goes to elementary school. I have to take care of him. I have to take care of my elderly mother who is on oxygen 24/7. She said, I don't have time to go outside and pull weeds. I need help. And she said, and it's very frustrating for me when the city property across the street from me has weeds that are bigger than mine, but I'm the one that's being targeted to clean my weeds, but the city doesn't clean theirs. So I think we need to make sure that our employees that are hired for certain positions learn. I mean, I'm not expecting everybody to know every ordinance, but if they're going to be working with specific ordinances, they need to know them well. They need to be able to explain them to people and be able to give a good reason for why they are violating the code.
Great. And Elaine Rodriguez, same question for you. What policy changes does the city need to address code enforcement problems in your ward?
The thing that we need to do first and foremost, and we have done, is we have hired 3 code enforcement officers. And many of them are trained at different levels and certified at different levels. And we're also cross-training, so code enforcement officers can also work with animal control. So first, we need to cross-train many of our employees to be able to move into different positions where it's needed. Second, I think we went a long time without enforcing codes. We had ordinances on the books and they weren't enforced by previous administrations. And now that we're enforcing them, the public is at kind of a shock. So second, we need to inform the public. We need to let them know, that these are the ordinances. A lot of times public don't even know what the ordinances are, and we pass them and they might not be aware. And then second, we are working on a service that will have money for senior citizens and individuals with disabilities. So they will be able to contact the city and request a certain individual to come and help them clean their weeds, or help them get groceries, or help them do errands. So we do have a service that we're working and putting in place and putting money towards. Also, it's taking pride in our community. And we're all busy. We all work. Many of us work multiple jobs. We have our grandkids. We try to spend time with our families. And I'm also, I have a house where we have weeds. So I'm also, it takes a lot of time to get out there and clean up your weeds and make it presentable. But it's also a matter of, we all have to take pride in our community and help each other out. It's just not a matter of being punitive and saying, okay, let's give you a ticket and then you have to pay. Maybe there's an alternative. Instead of paying, maybe they can offer a service. So it doesn't always have to boil down to money, because a lot of people don't have the money to be able to do the work.
All right, great. Thank you. The next question is going to begin with Barbara Casey. The collection of tax revenues are ways in which the city gains revenue for specific uses of public dollars. How do you make certain we maximize the collection of all revenues in the city?
I think that that would probably fall into the area of community development. They have a list of every business in town. And I know that in the past, I don't know, probably about 10 years ago or so, we did have one person that would go door to door to the businesses and talk to them about making sure that they were, paying their gross receipts tax or, lodger's tax, those kinds of things, to ensure that we were collecting what we needed for the city coffers. So I don't know, right now I think community development is probably a little understaffed, and I'm hoping that that will be ameliorated soon, so that the community development department is really a key component to the way things function in the city. And so we really need to get that back on track and see what we can do to work with our businesses to ensure that they are following all the ordinances and laws.
Perfect. All right. Elaine Rodriguez, same question for you. How do you make certain we maximize the collection of all revenues in the city?
First, we had to make sure that the businesses get their business license. We were kind of shocked at one of our city council meetings where we got a list of well over probably 200 businesses that operate and don't yearly update their business license. So that's a problem, and that's an issue that we have to address. The other thing is, you know, we talk about this and we need to really recognize it. You know, we are a poor community. We have large senior citizens community that is on a fixed income. And one of the things that we need to really think about is, you know, we need to increase our wages. If you want more tax revenue and you want people to pay more taxes, you have to bring up wages to a living wage. That has to be done. We have to look at living wages for our city employees. Highlands has done that. We have to look at compression issues. Highlands hasn't done that, but the city needs to do that so that people who have been working for the city for 15 years isn't making the same as someone coming in and having 1 to 5 years. So we have to bring up wages in order to bring in more revenue. We also have to address these businesses that come in for 1 or 2 months. Like when we get hail damage, they come and set up. And we need to maybe increase the amount of a business license for them. They come in, set up, make a lot of money. They don't pay much taxes, and then they leave. So we have to address those type of businesses coming in. And we also have to look at working with organizations. We often talk about bringing small businesses and helping small businesses, but we really got to work with small businesses, one, to help them with startup money. In order to open a small business, you have to have money. And a lot of our people don't have money, so we need to work with startup money, working with them to develop business plans so that they sustain over a period of time.
Great.
Sorry, keep going over, Phil.
You're all right. We're getting there. All right. David, same question for you. How will you make certain we maximize the collection of all revenues in the city?
As far as tax revenues, and I know you had mentioned earlier, Phil, you brought up lodger's tax. As far as tax revenue, again, that brings, GRT. We got to make sure that our businesses that are operating have a business license and that they're following through with their reporting to the state on GRT. As far as lodger's tax, we got to make sure, and I know we started looking into the Airbnbs, finding out the Airbnbs right now that aren't putting into lodger's tax. One thing in looking into this, we also found out that we should be collecting lodger's tax from some RV parks, and we have one RV park within the city limits. On top of that is, within the lodger's tax, and we haven't done this, and I know, the discussion has already been started, but with lodger's tax right now, we're at the mercy of the good faith system. Is that we're depending that these hotels, Airbnbs, that they're being truthful and reporting honestly. But within our contracts with, lodger's tax, is that we also have the ability to audit that, and that hasn't been done in well over 10 years. And I think that's one step that we need to move forward and make sure that, that what's accurately being paid to the city, that we're getting that. So there's a lot of things that the city has to do. As Councillor Casey mentioned, community development is a big aspect of what goes on here. Unfortunately, we have, it's still unfilled. But, that's the big thing. You have to have the right people, to do that, to make sure that, all these things are followed through. Business licenses. The city of Las Vegas is at a failure. We've basically funded organizations and programs that in turn hire individuals that don't have a business license but aren't reporting GRT. I mean, they're collecting gross receipts tax, but they don't have a business license. So this all starts with, somebody in that department to make sure that all these things are following through and make sure that we're getting all the revenue that we can from these the tax revenues. So, it's a big part is holding, getting that department, getting a handle of everything and making sure that the money that's out there that, that's available, belongs to the city, comes to the city. Thank you, Phil.
Great. All right. The next question will begin with Dr. Rodriguez. And it is, how important do you believe attracting new people to our community is, both visitors and potential new residents? What strategies would you put in place to accomplish these goals?
Well, I think it's crucial to sustain our community. I mean, we don't want to turn into a ghost town, and we've seen that with a lot of these small communities because we lose a lot of people. We lose a lot of our young people. They come and to Highlands, get educated, and then they take off and go to Santa Fe and Albuquerque. So we're always decreasing in population. One, you know, I think what's important is affordable housing. We have to be able to have affordable housing. We bring in faculty because we hire, you know, anywhere from 5 to 7 faculty on a yearly basis. And that's one of the biggest concerns is they can't find housing. So many of them feel that they have to go and live in Santa Fe or in El Dorado. So one, we have to be able to create more housing and affordable housing. And then two, I know we often focus on tourism, and tourism is important, but it can't be our only resource in bringing income and sources to our community. We have to be able to diversify in economic development, but we have to do it smart and practical. If we bring in, you know, and develop more economic development, such as companies that, you know, that supply and shipping, or internet, if we develop internet, because now what COVID has taught is one, we can't totally rely on tourism. That really affected our small businesses with COVID. And then two, COVID really affected and allowed people to work from home. So you can bring people into our community and they can work from home as long as they have a very reliable internet. So that brings people into our community. And we have to be very supportive of our universities. Luna, Highlands, they also bring a lot of people in from California, from Texas, from the East Coast. And a lot of those students come in, they love our community, and they end up staying here.
Great.
Is that my time, Phil?
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. David Romero, how important do you believe attracting new people to our community is for both visitors and potential new residents? And what strategies will you put in place to accomplish these goals?
I think to be attractive, I'll start off first with visitors. What we need to do is we need to have a collaborative effort with the city and the county. We have so many, we have to become a destination, and I don't think that we've done that properly. I think what has happened is visit Las Vegas, come shop, and we have to be more than that. If we really, really want to attract, we need to capitalize on Hermit's Peak. We need to capitalize on Story Lake. We need to capitalize on destinations, because people are going to come from out of state to come to a destination. And once that destination's here, well, they're going to want to stay in the hotels, and then they're going to go and want to eat. And as they're downtown or wherever they're at, they're going to want to shop. So we can't focus on just the shopping aspect. We have to have a destination. And at the same time, this goes into, now potential new residents. We need to continue to beautify our community. We need to continue to fix the roads. We need to continue to, clean the weeds. And this is residents and the city. The city has its faults. We're trying to address those. We can't expect everybody to clean their yard when we, as was mentioned earlier, when we don't clean ours. So there's a lot of things that we have to do, but it's just not the city. It's the community. It's the county. There's a lot of agencies that we need to do collaboratively. It's the Las Vegas First, the Chamber of Commerce, all these organizations. We need to be on the same page, and properly, do this properly, create a destination. I suggested to where, let's have somebody at the city. Let's go, we have a big thing right now is hiking and stuff like outdoor activity. We need to, let's have somebody at the city. Let's, map some, GoPro, map some of the trails. So people, when they're searching online, Las Vegas, New Mexico, there's not too much about destination. So we got to create that destination. We want people here. As far as new residents, housing's a big issue, jobs, we need to address that. There's housing developments, that we need to, but again, there's so many aspects, and some of this goes into community development. You know what I mean? And that's a big thing missing within the city that hopefully we can address, and we're going to. So there's so much more I could talk about, Phil, but I'll leave it at there since you put a timer on us. Thank you.
Gotta keep a timer on you guys or you go all night. I know how it goes here. All right, Barbara, same question for you. How important do you believe attracting new people to our community is, both visitors and potential new residents? What strategies would you put in place to accomplish these goals?
Okay, first of all, I think it's very important that we attract new people to the community. Las Vegas has lost a huge chunk of our population, and they're all living in Rio Rancho. And so that also affects federal funding for the city. I don't believe that people understand that when they leave Las Vegas, they are hurting Las Vegas, because we lose not only population, but we lose the federal dollars and state dollars that come to Las Vegas because of the number of citizens that we have. We also lose medical services such as booster shots and vaccines and those kinds of things, because everything that we get is based on population. So I think that that's very important. I think that we need to support our local businesses, but we need to expand. And I agree with Councilor Romero that we need to do things to make sure that we have not just tourism, but that we need to focus and really emphasize the wonderful things that we have going on in Las Vegas. We have eco-tourism, we have cultural tourism, we have architectural tourism, we have language tourism, we have the universities, as Elaine mentioned, we have the United World College, we have beautiful mountains, we have Hermit's Peak, we have hiking, we have bike riding, we have the Riverwalk. We used to have gliders that used to come in from all over the state and out of state to come and glide their miniature planes at the airport. All of those things we need to expand on and really build up. We are an art and cultural district. We need to expand on that also. So those are some of the things that I would do to promote Las Vegas.
Next question begins with David Romero, and it is, one of the biggest employment issues our community faces is nepotism. If elected, how will you handle nepotism in the workplace? Are you in favor of strengthening the nepotism guidelines at the city?
Okay, as far as strengthening them, Phil, I think there's state statute that covers all that. I think all we have to do is, follow state statute to within the city ordinances, as far as nepotism. I believe that, there's a misconception as far as, nepotism and, direct supervisor and stuff like that. But if you look at that statute, there's a language in there that basically states something as to have not a direct oversight, but a influence over the position. As far as directors and their employees, that can always be construed. I'm not directly their supervisor, but I do have an influence, over that position in one way or another. So, those things need to be very careful. And I think HR, is usually on top of that. For a while there, HR, we had a lot of turnover in HR. I think we've developed a great HR. We have a good HR department now, and we're trying to get back on track. Before there, we had interims, and then we didn't have nobody in HR. We had somebody in, the city managers kind of overseeing that, and that was a big issue. And I think those things are getting fixed. As far as from counselors down, I think we all take an oath, to follow the law, the city ordinances, and that. And when we do that, we're automatically, I haven't seen it within, my time at the city, where we directly do that. And I would, hope that we continue to do that, anybody that's elected.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Barbara, same question for you. If elected, how will you handle nepotism in the workplace?
Well, first of all, just to repeat what Councilor Romero said, we do have a nepotism statute in the state. It's Chapter 10, Article 1, Section 10-1-10. And that is very specific, and that is what the nepotism section of our ordinances is based on. But I would like to see if we could come up with an ordinance or personnel rule for the city that defines qualifications, mandatory qualifications for municipal positions, including management. I think if we're going to hire people, we need to hire people who are qualified. We need to hire people who are meet the qualifications for the job that they have to fill. We need to get away from, oh, well, he's my, half brother's son, or that's my cousin, twice removed, or whatever. It doesn't matter. We need to make sure that the people that we hire are qualified and trained, meet the requirements of the job that they're going to hold, and not just be somebody that is related to somebody else. So I think we need to maybe focus on qualifications too, which will help stop the nepotism train. Great.
And Elaine Rodriguez, same question. How will you handle nepotism in the workplace?
Well, Phil, nepotism isn't new to rural communities and small communities. I teach a state and local class, so we often research issues of nepotism, and it's in all small communities. And the reason being is that families that live in small communities, many of their children want to live and be close to their family, but they also want to be able to seek employment, and when we start looking at, how many areas or industries we have in the small communities, it's pretty limited, to be able for families to stay here and, keep a family unit. So it's not a new issue, and it's going to continue. We're going to have nepotism. That's just a byproduct of a small and kind of rural community. What's important about limiting nepotism is one, making sure that those individuals are qualified. So I agree with Ms. Casey that, we have to have job descriptions and qualifications for all of the jobs. And whenever they look at hiring individuals, they have to be qualified. And then two, you can't have individuals influencing the hiring process. We have an HR, we have a system in place, but since it's a small community and, directors and city workers are often intimidated and can be by other directors, by city managers, by the city council, by the mayor. So we have to make sure that those individuals are limited in getting involved in the hiring processes, and that's huge. And I know some other communities how they have gotten away from that is contracting personnel services. So you're getting an organization that comes in and does all of the job advertisements and contracts that, so they're not influenced by city council, mayor, directors, or outside people. Then that's taking the service outside of the city.
All right, perfect. Next question will begin with Barbara Casey. And the question is, homelessness is becoming a greater issue that affects certain public areas such as the Riverwalk, parks, and local businesses. How will you address this issue if elected?
I have been looking through federal grants that are available for building homeless shelters and refurbishing current structures that are already in existence but could be refurbished to provide shelter for homeless people. I think we need to do that. We have some veterans that don't have any place to live. We have a lot of people who are, for some reason or other, displaced and have no place to live. And we really do need to address that issue to make sure that we don't have, people living under the bridge, building fires to stay warm, those kinds of things. And I think that Samaritan House does a wonderful job for us here in Las Vegas. And I'm very proud that we have them in Las Vegas. They provide an essential service, but they can't do it all. And we need to support those entities that are working to help homeless people. And so I think if we would look for grants, federal monies that are available. I know that Senator Ben Ray Lujan sends out a list of grants that are available, and I get that every once in a while, every month. And so they always have something, especially for veterans. So I think we need to have somebody at the city that can take care of that type of grant application, that knows how to do them and is familiar with all the verbiage that's necessary for receiving those grants.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do.
Great, thank you. Dr. Rodriguez, same question. Homelessness is becoming a greater issue that affects certain public areas. How will you address this issue if elected?
Well, we did address this issue to some extent when Samaritan House came and applied for additional grant money. And we addressed some of the concerns that were brought to us by residents. One, in order for this to work, it has to be a collaborative effort, not just with Samaritan House, but also with neighbors, with businesses. And it's a matter of also communicating with each other, having community meetings, maybe monthly, to bring residents' concerns. So the board of Samaritan House or the homeless shelter and the director really understand what the community concerns is, because we have to hold the shelter accountable, whether they're getting grant money, city money, but it's also them being accountable, and the residents that reside within their walls are accountable, because residents bring real concerns. They're very concerned about this issue. And we have to be able to work with the residents to alleviate these issues, but it's also about being able to direct homeless individuals to different resources. So it's working with the Veterans Affairs, it's working with public housing, it's working with rehabilitation, not only for drugs, but mental illness. So it does take a group effort with all of these entities working together. So it's not just about giving more money, but it's about using that money effectively, and being a good neighbor. We got to be good neighbors, whether you're a homeless shelter or whether you're a resident that lives up the block.
Perfect. All right. And David Romero, same question. How will you address homelessness when you are elected?
Again, Phil, the homeless shelter does fit within my ward, so I've been very involved in what's going on there. Nobody could understand some of the calls that I get from some of the residents in that area where they're crying, because of certain issues, harassment, stuff like that. But at the same time, we do have a heart for the homeless in this community. One of the things, as Councilor Rodriguez mentioned earlier, we did go over their contract. Again, this is a collaborative effort. It's the city. We also need to get treatment. And then there's also another part that, many individuals do not know within this community, but, we've kind of, dissected as to what's happening is we have caretakers, that some of these people that hang around the areas have caretakers, that they're not considered really homeless, but they hang around the area. And so, there's adult protective services that need to kind of, these caretakers that are taking care of these individuals, have to kind of also, be held accountable. We want to make sure that the the individuals that need the service of, the homeless services in this community, if they don't have a home, they need somewhere to stay, they need somewhere to eat, that they'll be taken care of. Within this contract that we just recently approved, we included outreach service, that the Samaritan would also do that, because we think that the city can't be alone in, hey, you know what, you need services, so Samaritan is getting involved in that. And there's just a lot of aspects into the homeless. If this is my opinion right now, and I'll state this here, is if there's been nights that the homeless shelter has been filled to capacity, if the services that we have isn't enough, well, we need to work together, all of us, the state, the city, the Samaritan House, and find a bigger facility so we could make sure that every single one of these homeless people in this community have somewhere to stay if they truly need it. But we also got to make sure that we don't have individuals that are taking advantage of the homeless and giving them, this goes to the law enforcement aspect, is giving these individuals drugs and taking advantage of the situation to where we're having needles in the park and things like that. So this is this is something that we're addressing it. And it's not something that people are seeing, the effects right away. But, these are the things that we're addressing, getting everybody together, having those, those discussions. The Samaritan House is having issues, with those same guys that are, taking drugs to some of these individuals. So we're working together, and we'll keep working at it. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. All right. Dr. Rodriguez is going to start our next question. And it is, how do you feel the city has handled animal control in recent years? And what changes would you make to the way it is handled locally if elected? And you are, there you go.
Didn't we already address this, Phil? Is a repeated question. I feel like we've talked about this already. Animal control. Okay, as I mentioned, we have brought in, we have 3 positions available. So 1 is getting people employed in those positions. 2 is getting them trained. And I want the public to know that, it's not an issue. We share this issue with a lot of communities. Other communities are having the same problem with animal control. And it's been really more difficult and more profound because of COVID. We have a lot of drugs that animals that run freely. I'm often working on east of Railroad, and many of the residents express concern about they can't even walk or go for a walk because they're always worried about dogs attacking them. So 1, we have to enforce the ordinances we have in place, and that's a leash law. I've had residents who called me and said they can't even go to a park because individuals will let their dogs run in the park without a leash, and they're afraid they're going to get attacked. So 1, we have to enforce the ordinances that we have in place. And then 2, we have to provide and get more grant money, working for the animal, gosh, it escapes me right now, working for the Animal Coalition, because they have talked to me and said, we need to apply for more grants, which everybody needs more money, right, to be able to provide effective services. But it's also a matter of where do we house these animals? We're already double this size of housing animals in our shelter now. So, what do we do with these animals once we have collected them? The other thing that residents have complained about is once they're at, their dog goes through a fence, they keep a fence, the dog squeeze out, or they get off the leash. They pick them up and then they charge them, and people can't pay. So maybe we need to come up with an alternative. Maybe instead of coming up with money, maybe they can donate dog food or blankets or some other supplies so they can get their dog back. It's not always about collecting the money for it. Is my time up already?
Yeah.
Sorry, Phil.
All right. David Romero, animal control. How do you feel it's handled locally, and what changes would you make?
Come on, Phil. Can't we have an extension on the time on this one?
Hey, there's a question coming at the end where you can talk about whatever you'd like.
No, I'll get started. I'll get started, Phil. It just, as we know, there's quite a few articles that have been written out about the city of Las Vegas not doing their part with, handling animal control. And I'm going to be the first to right here, right now, to say that, you know what, I think it goes both ways. The city can improve in certain situations, and I also think AWC can improve. So going to that is currently the city funds AWC in a contract for $123,000. The city currently is somewhere down the line, without council approval, went to $129,000. There's a double-edged sword here, Phil, is that we're getting criticized for not picking up animals because they're being abused or that, and we understand those calls are being addressed by his name is Justin Marquez. He has the level 3 the animal control certification. There's level 1, level 2, and then there's that higher one, the level 3. So we do have an animal control officer that's tending to these calls. We also have another officer that's certified but only called when needed. We have 2 customer service aides that are tending to calls. So we are tending to these calls. So it's not that. What's happening is we're in the middle of a contract that is due to expire. So there's been pressure put on the city of Las Vegas that we need to get this contract done. But we need to really see, looking in that contract, there's a lot of issues that AWC is not performing. There's city fees. When people go in and they get their dogs impounded, they're paying a city license fee that the city of Las Vegas has not seen since 2013. There's an impound fee that they're charging the people of Las Vegas, that impound fee first time is $0. They're not supposed to charge that impound fee. So instead of, this again, we talk about collaboration and networking and working together. That's not happening. They're going on the radio, they're going on the TV, they're doing what they have to do, Facebook pages. And what they should be doing is coming to the council meetings, coming to talk to the city, to the mayor, to the council, getting on public input and saying, hey, we have these issues, you guys aren't doing, let's get the contract, let's open it up, and let's work together, because that's what we need. We can't, be pitting, against each other and fighting. We have issues within animal control in this community. But we can't pick up all the animals when we don't have no room in the shelter. Do we need a bigger shelter space? There's a lot of things that we need to address that, they're not really, they're saying one side of the story. The city of Las Vegas is doing in its best ability what we can with what we have. And believe me, animal control officers, we're doing our best to hire them. Unfortunately, we've increased from $11 to $14. There's a lot of things that, we're doing our best, and please, the community that's out there, trust us. We're doing what we can, but we need to work together instead of fighting with each other. AWC, City of Las Vegas need to work together. Thank you, Phil.
Great. Thank you. Barbara Casey, same question. How do you feel the city's handled animal control, and what changes would you make if elected?
I think that we need to open up the lines of communication between I think everybody needs to work together. First of all, we don't have enough animal control people working. We have 3 animal control officers. One is certified and the others are called CSAs, which I think stands for, Citizen Service Aid or something like that. We need to really up the number of animal control folks that are out there trying to get this situation under control. I do believe that some people may not even know that we have an ordinance that requires their animals to be on a leash if they're going to be walking them, to the park or wherever to get exercise. And if they're going to let them out of their house, that they are to remain in their yard, and their yard should be, have a gate or a fence to make sure that dog or cat isn't out running around, disturbing other animals or people. I have myself encountered dogs that have really scared me when I was going door to door. And so it's like, I know not to run because they'll chase you. So I just stood there and kind of stared at them like, go away. But those are the kinds of issues that people are dealing with every day. We have a lot of elderly people that walk, and we have a lot of people who own animals and they like to take them out. And if they feel threatened and uncomfortable, that isn't good for the people. It's not good for the animals. So we really do need to up the number of animal control officers. We need to maybe publish what the ordinance says so that people are well aware when they register their animal with the city. That would be a good time to give them a copy of the ordinance so that they know that they need to take control of their animals and take care of them.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And now we'll go to the final question, which is a little more open-ended for all of you. And we're going to start with David Romero on this one. And that is there a specific issue in the community that has not been a topic of discussion tonight or with the city of Las Vegas that you feel should be addressed moving forward?
Well, Phil, I think there's a lot of issues that we didn't discuss, and I'll go ahead. We talk about roads, and I think that's an important part because we have so many people criticizing, and we have roads issues, potholes. The issue with roads, what's happened is that they've been neglected for so long. Proper maintenance, so that's led to cracks. Eventually, cracks lead to potholes. Potholes lead to deterioration of the road. In my 4 years, I can honestly say, and this goes back even Councillor Casey, Councillor Rodriguez, we've all supported, whether it's been, a pothole machine, that thing has been nonstop. There's so much equipment needed, to address roads. I mean, I could go down the list real quick. $3.8 million Legion Drive, $1.2 million with the Bridge Street project, $12 million Grand Avenue. We're putting a lot of money, as we can apply for this money and address our roads. As far as fixing potholes, I could tell you, the budget on that it's incredible. So there's a lot of needs within the community. Roads is one of them, but we're trying to do what we can with what we have. At the end of the day, the cost of doing, Bridge Street alone, $1.2 million. Look at what we had to deal with, and we have so many roads that need that. There is no way that the state would fund us what we need to fix the roads immediately. So we need to crack seal the cracks, mill and overlay when the opportunity arises, and fix the potholes as soon as we can. And again, we go back to staffing. We have 4 people. I think they've hired a couple more, but we had 4 people in the streets department. There's a whole reorganization of the city of Las Vegas that needs to transpire. We had 3 people or 4 people at the museum. To me, a priority, and I said this during budget session, is that our roads department needs more employees, but it's hard to find the employees. They're overworked, underpaid, and we got to do better. So, rest assured that we're doing the best that we can with what we have, and we could always do better. Again, we look into, funding, I, for one, and I'm speaking for myself, everybody, did their own, lobbying. That's a big part of the city councilors. We got to go and find money for these projects. CDBG with another project, $750,000 that we just recently got awarded that hasn't been released yet. We're doing the best that we can, but we need to fix and maintain what we have, because for so long, proper maintenance of our roads had not been addressed. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. All right. Barbara Casey, same question. What is a specific issue in the community that has not been a topic of discussion tonight and you feel like should be addressed?
Okay, I have 2, sort of. I wanted to expand a little bit on the water issue that was discussed earlier with the other group for Ward 1. We need to educate people on, we need to promote the use of drought resistant plants, for their yards, landscaping, xeriscaping, those kinds of things. We need to expand the use of effluent water in our city parks and other public areas. And we also need to make sure that runoff from storms are going somewhere instead of just running down the street and making another pothole. And we need to promote, by doing that, we would promote groundwater recharge. So that's one issue. The other one is I would really like to see community development expanded a little bit so that we have one staff person dedicated solely to monitor and work with the, we have so many volunteer organizations, 501c3s, nonprofits, and see if we can get those entities to work together, align their goals, monitor their projects, coordinate between the groups so that we can identify gaps and identify redundancies. I know that everybody is wanting to improve Las Vegas, but if we have, 3 different groups working all on the same thing, that's redundant. We can work together, we can spread the joy, so to speak, and get more things done by working together and having somebody that can work for these groups and say, okay, this group is doing this, can this other group provide this other service? And so I think that would get everybody working together and not be competing against each other. And it would also alleviate the situation where, one group is kind of doing whatever they want to do and everybody else is like, well, how come they get to do that, but we don't? That kind of thing. I think we need to try to stop the conflict that we have between the city and those entities. And we need to sit down with them and also educate them, because the Department of Finance and Administration on a yearly basis sends out every municipality, every county commission, every school board letters with a directive that say specifically you are not to use general fund money for nonprofit organizations. A lot of the municipalities get around that issue by issuing RFPs, and then entities within their communities put in a proposal. And most of the time, there's only one entity that can provide a certain service. And that service gets their money from the city, but they do it in a legal way. And that really helps, fix the problem, I think. So that's what I would like to see done.
Great, thank you. Dr. Rodriguez, same issue, same question. What's an issue that hasn't been talked about tonight that you think should be addressed if you're reelected?
Yeah, I think one of the major issues is, and I mentioned this before, is equitable resources to all wards. And we haven't seen that. Like I said, east of Railroad, west side, we haven't put a lot of resources into developing those areas. We put a lot of resources into the plaza downtown from, my ward. But we need to be more equitable, because it's just not about us operating in our wards, but we operate in all of Las Vegas. So that is my top priority. We also have to build up small businesses on the west side. A grocery store, many of them have to go all the way to Walmart to get groceries, or they go to Allsups, which is priced higher. So I think in looking at small businesses, we need to promote more small businesses on the west side. We need to support Rodriguez Park, because that will bring a lot of tourists in. That will bring a lot of athletic sports coming in. So that's key. The other area that I really would like to would work on if reelected is city wages. Some of our city employees start out at $11. That we need to really focus on a livable wage and alternatives. We still operate like we live in the 1950s when it comes to the city administration. Maybe people don't want more wages, and may want more time to spend with their families. So maybe we readjust the workday. I have workers who have children and they have to pick up their kids from school, and they need time to be able to do that. So be able to adjust their lunch hours. They take care of their parents who are senior citizens. So we have to be a little bit more flexible. I understand with that comes accountability. So yes, we We have to instill accountability, integrity. That's important, for us to be looking at. We really have to address the east of the railroad because we're developing and put a lot of money into the Castaneda, into the railroad, into that area. But once you start looking at the drainage and the runoff of the rains, eventually it makes its way down there and it destroys much of their housing. A lot of the residents I've talked into that area, we don't have drainage for runoff, and it goes into their homes. They have to replace their carpets. That's an issue that the city really needs to target and focus on. We also need to look at, affordable housing. That's important in our area, is affordable housing, development, city wages, trying to think some others. There's a lot of issues.
Yeah, you're good. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Now we are going to move on to closing statements, and we're back to Barbara Casey. So you can start us off with a closing statement to end us out here.
I just want to say thank you, Phil, for putting the forum together. I hope that we had a lot of people watching it on Facebook and on YouTube. And I hope that they know that I am very accessible. I think pretty much everybody in Las Vegas knows my phone number and they know where I live. And so I'm a very open person. People call me up all the time to ask me different questions, and I'm always available. I don't work, so I'm retired, happily retired. So I have the time and I have the energy, I have the background, I have the knowledge to do the job. And I have a very strong desire to continue to serve the people of Las Vegas to the best of my ability and do everything that I can to help them in whatever way I can. So I want to thank you very much. And folks, please vote for, which way do I go? Barbara Padilla Casey, City Council Ward 3. Vote March 1st. Early voting is already taking place. You can do that at City Hall, or you can wait until Election Day and vote at Robertson High School or at West Las Vegas High School gym. Thank you very much, and have a nice evening.
Thank you. All right. Dr. Rodriguez, closing statement.
Okay, I just want to reinforce kind of in the period of time that I've been appointed to office, and that's been about 16, 17 months. And I think we've accomplished a lot as a council, but that only works if you can work collectively and collaboratively. Conflict and arguing with other council members, arguing with the mayor doesn't really get services to our community. So that's key. The other thing is, we are working to bring in more family-oriented recreational services. I'm working to bring in a basketball court and lights to Keys Park. We're working on, we brought in the skating ring. We're looking at bringing in more family-oriented activities. The other thing that I think is very important is a livable wage for our city employees, but also accountability. One thing that I always prided myself, and I say pride, I sit on a lot of committees at the university. I never wanted to be an administrator because they spend a lot of time in meetings. And in meetings, you just get a lot of people who talk, boast about their accomplishments. I think residents need to realize it's not one council person, Romero or Montoya or Ulibarri or Rodriguez, that brings things to your community. It's all council. We talk about it, we have ideas, and we work together to bring. I'm not a good person to boast about myself, and I won't, because it's a collaborative effort. These issues that I bring forward are not on my agenda. These are resident issues. It's the residents' agenda. And it's not just me working towards this. It's me working with community to bring services. You know, it's a community effort. So you don't have to rely on the city council to bring your issue and get it done. You work as a collective with community and you push the city council to get it done. I also work with students every year. We do lobbying at the state legislature. We've been very effective. We got 6 figures for Highlands. They not only lobby on behalf of Highlands, but they also lobby on behalf of the city. So it's just not me lobbying. I think that's very important, is that you got to teach people how to do this. And I work with students and teach them how to lobby. So it's just not me doing it or just Barbara Casey doing it, but it's 10, 20, 30 students lobbying on behalf of the university and our community to bring resources. So I think residents need to realize that it's just not one council, it's not one mayor, but it's collectively that we work and collaborate and compromise. You have to make compromises to be able to bring the services back to our community. So thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. I wish we could do it longer and more often,
Yes.
but you have a good evening. And thank you, residents, for listening.
Thank you. And David Romero, end the night for us.
All right. Well, thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil and the Las Vegas Optic, for hosting this forum. Also, thank you to all the listeners and the viewers that are out in the community that are, unfortunately, I don't have an opponent. I mean, I wish I would have, because, that brings out more of debate and some of the issues, talk about the real issues that matter. So this was the only forum I was invited to. So thank you, Phil. But as far as that, I think everybody knows me. My name's David Romero. I'm humbly asking for your vote, even though I don't have an opponent, but I truly, truly need each and every vote, because that makes a difference in the support that I get. I think in my 4 years of city council, I have been ethical and I've had integrity, and I've also been accountable to the community. We got to ensure, as no matter who you elect in Ward 1 or Ward 3, that you elect somebody, you're going to vote for somebody that's going to be ethical and integrity, and also making sure that every tax dollar is spent wisely. Because if we don't do that, then we fall into issues that we've had in the past. And I truly believe that, individuals here today are doing that. The people I serve with are doing that. And sometimes, individuals aren't happy in the community that you're, holding people accountable, holding groups accountable. And this is just stuff that should have been happening in the past, but never happened. And I'll continue to do that, whether, it makes some people angry. But I think at the end of the day, we're starting to build a foundation within the city of Las Vegas. We have a city manager that I think he's young and he has a vision. He's not in retirement mode, so he wants to see this city succeed. We all have individuals that are running for council, I believe, that have the best interests of this community. They're not self-serving, and we all care about every single ward. And I think that's what matters. And again, I ask everybody humbly for your vote. We've had a lot of accomplishments, within, I know 2 years that I've or 18 months that I've served with Councilor Rodriguez. I also had some great accomplishments with Councilor Casey. I get along with both of them, can work with both of them. At the end of the day, whoever the people decide to elect, then I'll work with them. And I think I've shown that I could work with anybody. So thank you, Phil, again, and thank you to the viewers. And let's all make sure Las Vegas is better 4 years from now than what it is today. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate all of you for joining me tonight. And I hope everyone watching, everyone who participated, has a great evening. Remember, Election Day is March 1st, and you can early vote tomorrow. If you heard all you need to hear, you can go vote tomorrow at City Hall. But just take advantage of the opportunity to vote, and everyone have a great evening.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.